The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by TheOp, also known as USAopoly.
The Dice Tower, episode 735, Holiday Yums.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, Mandi and I tried to give a couple of spoiler-free reviews, and we're going to branch out and serve up a Tech Tree game pie. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Dice Tower podcast. Excellent to have you here. Mandi, I'm riding two different emotional highs right now.
Oh, what would they be?
I know.
What's going on?
One, we just celebrated Halloween.
Yes, best holiday ever.
And to observe social distancing, I was inspired by Todd Sanders on social media, who's a game designer. He was showing off this wooden ramp he built where he slides candy down to help with social distancing and trick-or-treating. I was so inspired by this, I ran into my house and started cutting up old Lego kit boxes and made like the jankiest, gnarliest candy slide out of Lego boxes, like with painter's tape, and it's so ugly. But Mandi,
yes,
it worked. And so Halloween night was amazing. Everybody loved the candy slide. It helps that I was sending full-size candy bars down the slide.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Yep.
But it was phenomenal. I had like 150 trick-or-treaters, and I just got to say, like, pandemic or no pandemic, I think I'm going to do this candy slide thing from now on.
But wait.
Because it was awesome.
Are you going to amp it up? Like, are you going to Lego maybe? Like you said, Lego boxes. I was expecting it to be actual Lego, but maybe?
That's smart. Or like I could get like, see if I can get like a t-shirt cannon.
Here's some candy.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll just try to upgrade
that might get slide. A little. Yeah, we might. We don't want anybody losing an eye over a Snickers bar. So just saying.
And then I also, Mandi, after a couple of years of savings,
yes, I
got a game table.
Yes, I'm so jealous. I want one. You need to tell us about it.
Well, and I'm going to dig into it. I just got it set up and all this other good stuff. So I want to live with it a little bit. But oh my gosh, Mandi, I'm so in love. And I will tell you, it cost a fair amount of money. I saved up for years for it. It's the Garrison from Rathskellars.
Ooh.
And it's actually a board game coffee table.
Okay.
And now, let's be clear, folks. I bought the table. I'm not being paid to talk about it or anything like that. I just love this thing because, hey, if you're listening to this podcast, you are likely a pretty avid board gamer. Mm-hmm. Just like we're going to talk about in a second here.
I was going to say either that or you've stumbled across, someone in your life who listens to us and said, wow, they sound pretty awesome. Let me check it out. And then maybe you're here for that, for the laughs and the songs and maybe a little bit of the board games. But I digress.
Definitely the songs.
The songs, for sure.
Definitely the songs. It is a coffee table because that's what would fit my lifestyle a little bit more right now because we play a lot of games casually on this and I have young kids and all this other stuff. Mandi, first of all, it's dreamier than I ever thought it would be.
Ooh.
And I didn't realize how much of an impact it would have. Like on one night, I set up a bigger game and then I got tired. So we just put it away. We just put the table flies on. Then the next day we used it as a table. And then that evening when we wanted to actually play the game, we just took the leaves off. Boom, we were all separate. It was magical. It was amazing. I'm already very smitten with it, but it had to go up some stairs because I have a multi-story house thingy.
Yikes.
And because it's a coffee table, normally like board game tables, I think they ship in pieces and you kind of put them together in your home, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. With this coffee table, it just ships as one big thing. They sent me this crate that looks like it was something out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? This wooden crate with the big spray paint this side up kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mandi, this thing was so heavy. Oh my gosh. Thankfully, my friends Jason and Carrie came over and they volunteered. I didn't ask them. I would never have asked anybody. The comedy of getting this thing upstairs, it weighs like I don't know, like 400
I
pounds.
believe it.
The DHL guy was like, yeah, it weighs 400 pounds. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Whew. That's wild.
So, yeah, I'm gonna dig into I'm gonna live with it for a little bit more.
Right.
But I'm probably gonna have to talk about more, Mandi, because I'm kind of crushing on it. So
no,
you've been warned.
You should, because so before the pandemic, I actually had spoken to a local-ish person. I shouldn't say retailer because it is a person that does it. They have their own business of getting a table. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, it just made it difficult.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to wait. So now, listening to you talk about yours, that can give me some ideas.
Yeah.
So now when I'm ready, I can be like, oh yeah, Suzanne said this was cool on her table. Maybe I'll get that on my table or try something fun.
Totally.
So, but mine will be like a table because just of where it's going to go. But
Totally.
I'm very excited to hear more. So yeah, I mean, please, we all know how it is when you have a crush. You're like, oh my goodness, I need to talk about
Your
it
little heart
all the
flutters.
time, right? You're like, I'm having dreams about it. Oh my gosh, can I just tell you the other day just how smooth it felt to put that game on the table? Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Okay, you're teasing me a little bit here, but literally I took a video on my phone of the drawer, this big drawer it has, because the slide action on the drawer is
But come on, did you
smooth.
open the drawer and you went, I did? Did you kind of slide it up? Like, don't be fresh and tell me I can put my dice in there.
No, okay, anyway, folks, you're going to hear about this table a little bit more. My apologies in advance, but yeah, it's pretty great.
I'm excited.
Pretty
I'm
great.
excited to, your friends are here for you. We always have a listening ear, so very excited.
I appreciate that. And, last episode, our episode title poll that we do every episode, apologies, it posted a little late. Thanks for everybody that managed to jump in there and vote, was all about, the avid player and gamers that we are, right? We asked the big question, how many games do you have in your collection?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. And, it was interesting. Definitely the 100 to 350, maybe, 50 to 500. That's like the hot zone. If you go and you look at this poll result on the Dice Tower's Board Game Geek Guild, it's really interesting to see this very distinct curve. It's funny because one of the comments really kind of nailed it, because you think, I admit, Mandi, I look at it and I go, 50 board games, 100 board games. Oh, that's a nice little collection.
Right.
That's a nice collection. Right?
Yep.
But I think to most people, if you go out to the grocery store and you can say, oh yeah, how many board games do you have? They'll say like 2. And then you'll tell them you have 100 and they'll go, what the heck is wrong with you?
Yeah, they're like, why
right?
so many?
And John in the guild said, I always put my collection in the category of, I have a lot of games, but I know people who have a lot more than I do.
Right.
This is also the view of people outside the hobby thinking, that's a lot of games, while within the hobby, the view is, oh, that's a nice library.
Yep, that is accurate.
And John, I think you really, really nailed it there for sure. But hey, it's very clear that, of course, within the Dice Tower on Board Game Geek,
Sure.
we know what's going on. And 0 people responded to the poll that they don't own any games.
Okay, sure.
And hey, guess what? You're still a full-fledged board gamer.
Absolutely.
Even if you didn't own any.
Absolutely.
But it was great to see everybody's results. Clearly, a lot of us have somewhere in our home some kind of shelving dedicated to board games in some form or fashion. And hey, 7 of y'all said you have over 2,000
That
games,
I
so-
actually know somebody who is in that category. And wow, it is a sight. Like, don't get me wrong, I have a lot. And when you said the hot zone, all I could think of was like, I'm feeling hot board game people all around me, feeling hot. So I was in that hot zone a little bit there, but maybe closer to the higher numbered hot zone. So I can only imagine someone with like triple what I have. And I have seen a friend's collection, and I have to say it's impressive.
Well, actually, my daughter, who is 13, had a friend over, and they were hanging out in the area where most of the board games are.
Yeah.
And the friend, whose family has a quote-unquote normal amount of games in their household, the friend was like, it's like a store in here.
Do people ask
Oh,
you?
boy.
Do people ask you this? How I get this all the time. Have you thought about doing like online store or a library? Like something bigger than your collection?
Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Ugh. But I'm very happy with my collection. I'm actually trying to cull it down, which is not the easiest thing to do in the middle of a pandemic. But, that my time will come. And folks, as we mentioned in a recent episode, Mandy's planning on visiting me in the relatively near future. So, Mandi, maybe I'll put you to work categorizing games and boxing them up.
I'm not going to lie. I do like organizing. And Ashley, who will be joining us, also enjoy. Oh, my goodness. You know what? That'll be done before we leave.
Oh, I love it. It's a plan. It's a plan. So thanks, everybody, for your wonderful responses to our board game collection size poll. This episode, we're going in a different direction. Holiday yum. Hey-oh. A lot of us are moving into what we refer to as the holiday season. And I think most cultures, like food, is centric to the celebration of a holiday, whether it's denying yourself food sometimes or whether it's indulging in food.
Sure.
Like holidays can really span in this season. But I want to know, what is your favorite must-have dish at a holiday celebration? So I'm going to put a fairly generic poll up because there's no way I can account for all the wonderful foods out there,
Absolutely.
right? So we're going to do like savory casseroles or things like that, right? And then, folks, I'm calling on you. Can we make this as good as the pets poll? I want links to recipes. I want you in the replies telling me about all the yummy foods that you eat during the holidays, because I think I'm just really hungry right now.
Well, as you're talking about, I'm thinking about, like, I mean, I'm not going to lie, like mac and cheese, and I'm not talking about like boxed mac and cheese. I'm talking about like Caribbean style mac and cheese, no raisins. If you put raisins in your macaroni and cheese,
I saw that video. That was offensive.
Friends. That is, no. But I was gonna say mac and cheese, but with a side of Caverna.
Oh, good gravy. All right. Folks, you've got your assignment. Get in that poll. I want to see some delicious holiday treats. Mandi, let's talk about some games, you goofball.
Good idea.
So, what have you been playing lately?
Well, you all can't see this, but I must be in like a mood. We started talking about food. I'm in the mood for food, and apparently to dance. I'm back here going, games played, da-na-na-na-na-na-na, games played, yeah, well, the games played. Yeah, I don't know. It's a song I just made up, and it sounded really good in my head, and now that I'm saying out loud, it's pretty terrible. But that's okay, because we're going to talk about games.
Yeah, Mandi. Oh, boy. It's going to be one of those shows, huh?
Oh, it is. I know, everyone, this is all what you've been waiting for, and I'm going to give you all the things, all the games. Here we go. So, I, unfortunately, didn't have a lot of games to play this past couple of weeks because, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, I've been working on getting a promotion, which, well, I won't jinx it, but the paperwork's in, the things are done. I'm very excited.
Woo!
So back to, regular programming as scheduled soon. So unfortunately, I didn't have a ton of games to talk about, but I did revisit a few games with friends who are not classified. When I say like gamers, I mean hardcore gamers like Suzanne and I who play a lot.
Hardcore,
yeah. So I don't know why I gave devil horns, and no one can see that but Suzanne.
Yeah, and the like rocker face.
Right,
yeah, good.
the whole thing.
Really great audio there.
Yeah, so you can see that I haven't done this a lot. So we tried a few games, or I showed them a few games, and one of them was Moonbase, which Suzanne had reviewed a while back, and I only got it recently. I backed it on Kickstarter. And I played that with Ashley the shark, and guess what? No. I won, everybody. I won this game. Whoa! I was so excited. So, now, I don't know if it'll be a 2 for 2 next time, but...
Was Ashley not feeling well? What?
She'll tell you. She's like, well, I was kind of helping you. No, you weren't. Don't even say that. Okay, well, I didn't understand the rules a little bit at first, but that's just she was explaining it. I won fair and square, but I don't think that'll happen the second time around. But Moonbase is...
Yeah, what'd you think of it?
I liked it. At first, I was worried. I'm like, I don't know. But you had said it was good, so I'm like, I'm going to give it a try. And it literally is how it sounds. Like, you have a board that's like a moon. You have rings that are silver, blue, and gold, and you're trying to place them out strategically in a way that allows you to kind of create... I don't know what they're called, but... configurations that allow you to get points. Potentially you have a marker like that kind of sits in some of the rings that can help you get
potentially
points.
You can build up and that kind of thing.
Right. Like I'm not going to go into too many details. We've reviewed already, but I liked it. And I'm not particularly good at these types of games. And I guess my brain was really grokking it really easily for some reason. It was maybe because it was simple. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And then the coloring was simple. It made sense with the theming of the game. So Moonbase, I liked a lot. So definitely a game. I know Ashley enjoyed it as well. We'll definitely be playing again. Also played some other games. I won't go into too much detail because we've talked about them. But Honey Buzz, if you haven't tried that one, not only...
I have not had the chance to play it, Mandi. I'm really sad about this, though.
It's so cute. And it's about bees and honey. And oh my gosh, it's so adorable. But it like has a lot going on. I've played it solo, and I think I did a stream doing it solo, and I had not played it with people, like with other people, and we played a full game with the expansions, and it was so good. And I think it's coming to Kickstarter again. Actually, the week of this podcast, I believe it's coming to Kickstarter with more expansions. So,
oh really?
Yes, and I think I'm gonna have to get the expansion. So, that and a Vitalis Lacerda game, but that is for another podcast, everybody. So there's that. We played Azul Summer Pavilion, which I think was like a recent. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is a new one that has launched. I think it's on pre-order for Azul, but that was one of the more recent ones prior to that. Right. I really like that one. That one is definitely like very family weight, and I really enjoyed it.
Summer Pavilion.
Yes.
That's really with the diamonds?
Yeah. It seems complicated, but I know when they launched it, they had kind of said it was definitely geared toward family. And I said, really, it might be complicated. But after playing with my friends, they're like, no, it actually is pretty straightforward. Like, it kind of breaks down the phases, I guess, a little bit, but it is fairly straightforward.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I enjoyed it a lot. I like it. So it's up there. Like, I think Azul is still my top, but this one would definitely be my number 2. So
I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
I really like Summer Pavilion as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So if you haven't tried it, definitely want to check out. They are launching a newer one that's coming out soon. I haven't played that one yet.
Right, the Queen's Garden or something like that.
So I'm hoping to get that one, but I heard that one is definitely a little weightier, quote unquote. So we'll see how that one plays out. And finally, we finished up the night with Project L. So this is another one. I think they had sent us from Essen like a couple years back. And I also backed the Kickstarter for the expansion, which hasn't arrived yet. So I'm excited for that. But if you like, those polyomino Tetris type shapes, and they're like I don't know, not plastic. I don't know what you'd call that texture, but the components.
Oh yeah, like Bakelite or acrylic or whatever. Yeah, I'm not sure what material it is.
Yeah, but it's really good quality. I love the black box. I love the black accents on it. Like, that's just, the styling is chef's kiss. It's wonderful. But the game itself it's light, but it's fun. And if you like those kind of Tetris shapes, trying to complete objectives on cards using those shapes, upgrading those shapes to get better shapes, and timing is really important in this game. I've played it solo. I like it solo. And for me to say that, what that means. Like, I don't generally play solo games, but it plays quickly enough. I'm terrible at it solo. I'm so bad at it solo. But really, really fun game. So Project L is another one, and I know that was on Kickstarter recently with some expansion bits. So those are some of the games I showed some of my friends over the past few days, and they really enjoyed it. And I'll be talking about another one. They're helping me plow through a campaign really fast because they know I wanted to talk about it. But that'll be my next game I talk about after Suzanne talks about hers.
Ooh, very nice. I'm so excited for that Kickstarter because I backed the Project L expansion.
Yes.
And I think they're getting closer to being able to fulfill. And I've got my Project L box all ready to go.
Get all the
prepped.
Steps. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for that piece for sure.
So exciting.
Nice. I love that. A lot of times when you go into board game content, right, there's this discussion of the cult of the new.
Right.
And I know, and we know from the Dice Tower, right, we have the shelf staple segment, and we in fact, we just got a message from a listener a little bit ago talking about how they liked hearing it when we talked about slightly older games and things like that. And that's because it's so true. Cult of the New is great. Don't get me wrong. I love a new game along with everybody else, but it's really fun to revisit games and see what's held up and what hasn't and what's still making it to the table years later.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome, Mandy. Thanks.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, here I am talking about the Cult of the New, and I got a really, really new game to talk.
I was like, I don't know this game, and I'm a little jealous that I didn't know about it.
I'm such a hypocrite. I'm so sorry, folks. But this game's called Bad Company. It's bad, and it's company.
But bad is good.
No, well, the company's bad.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying the game's bad. Let's be clear.
Okay. Just checking.
This is published by TheOp.games, and the designers are Kenneth Minde, Eilif Svensson, and Christian Ostby, which Eilif and Christian are kind of the pair behind most of TheOp. And the illustrations are by Geirmund Bone. And this one's going to play 1 to 6. And that's a really fascinating player count to me, because how rare is it to have games that span 1 to 6? Or more specifically, how rare is it for a game to say that they span 1 to 6 and actually do so in an elegant way?
That's it. It's tricky.
Right? Player count, ideal player count, and time to play are big traps sometimes on the side of a box. We all know. In Bad Company, in some ways, it's mostly a card and dice game. There's a couple of central boards that you're going to have as well, but you are controlling a band of thieves. It's a heist game. I guess that's why they're Bad Company. It's a company of baddies, a company of thieves, I think. I'm not quite sure, actually, thematically how that works. But basically, you are going to be rolling dice to activate characters in your player zone. That when you activate them, they're going to help you complete heist cards. And at the end of the game, you're going to get points for those heists that you managed to complete and a few other things in the game. And the person with the highest score is going to win. It's pretty straightforward from that point of view. And I would definitely say for people who've played a lot of board games, this feels in the nice mid-weight range. This is not a super heavy game, especially if you've played a lot of games before. Mm-hmm. There is a central board that has a road-like path on it, and you get your own little car on it. And there's a black car that represents the coppers. So you're going to be trying to keep in front of the coppers so that you don't get caught. And then there's another board that allows you to upgrade your characters. And this is critical because you're going to get a player board. And one of the goofiest things, I don't think they had to do this, but it's kind of a fun touch. It comes with a left and a right half. The left half will have descriptive words for the team, and the right half will have just a team name thing. And you can mix and match them, and there are subtle differences on the player board. So you could be the Stinky Pimples, because Stinky's on the left board and Pimples is on the right board. I'm not joking.
Okay.
Or you could be the Sneaky Tacos, because Sneaky's one of the descriptors in taco. It's the goofiest thing, but honestly, it does give you a nice little laugh, and it's kind of fun there. But what you have is that the player board has a lineup of characters ranging from 2 to 12, and each one's individual, and each one has one icon associated with it generally. So when the dice are rolled, the active player gets to mix and match them into pairs, and then activate 2 characters based on those pairs. Every other player gets to pick one of the pairs to activate. So automatically, when you see that 1 to 6, it really pairs it down because every player is active every turn. And I love that in this game for sure. And so let's say I activate 5. Well, maybe that gives me a flashlight. Cool. So then I take a token and I have a heist card and I can cover up one of the flashlight icons on a heist card. And then I have a 10. And so that gives me a mask icon. Cool. Well, then I cover up a mask icon on the heist and then it keeps on going. When all the icons on one of my cards is covered up, then I've completed the heist. I can put it on my completed heist zone. It gives me more icons that you can get bonuses for having majority of the diamonds or majority of the cash bags, that kind of thing. And the game ends when somebody has completed 6 heists or if the cop car makes it to this red zone on the board. Really straightforward game overall. the thing that makes this game spark for me is you can upgrade your characters. So the characters, you have the player board, but then there's a deck of upgrade cards, which are just more characters. And so you got to shuffle it up, and you can pay gold that you collect to upgrade a character. So you draw 3 character cards and you pick one and you put it on your board. And this way that this works is they kind of layer. So as you take a new card, it's built to layer up on that number. So if I'm upgrading my 7, I'll get a new 7 card. It positions itself in such a way that the previous icon on 7 is still revealed. So you've strengthened that value. So now if you claim a 7, you get 2 icons instead of 1. And if you upgrade the 7 again, then you're going to get 3 things instead of 1. And you're getting to build almost a little engine there. And I think you can compare this to games like Machi Koro and how that works, where you're really, really active, or space-based, and you get to get things based on dice rolls. It's very much in that family. But the illustrations really sell it, because these characters just get taller and taller. And it's like you get different waistband It's hard to describe visually, but it's visually really entertaining and amusing. And I was charmed by it. I had a lot of fun playing it. So, Bad Company, pretty straightforward game, nice medium weight game. You've got players from 1 to 6. I've played it solo, I've played it 2, and I've played it 3 player. I've not played it at 4, 5, or 6, but I am betting cash money that it will play very quickly and smoothly at that, because, again, it's a game where players are active every turn. It is interesting. It is fun. You can pick strategies. There's strategy in which heist cards you pick and things like that. It honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect when I got it. I didn't really know much about the game, and I'm really grateful that Aporta sent me a copy of it, because it's staying in my collection. I've really enjoyed Bad Company.
Yeah, I had not heard of this one, so definitely one I look forward to trying at some point. I know I've played a few games from Elif Svensson and Christian Amundsen that have been Otsby, who've been really great. So I'm really excited to try it. And it sounds lighthearted and amusing at the same time.
It is. It really is.
Well, now this is the game for me, the game of the hour, because it's the only game that I'm going to talk about today. Destinies Sea and Sand. So you're thinking.
Oh, I'm so jealous, Mandi. I'm so... Oh, flames on the side of my face. I'm so envious. I'm seething in it. I'm swimming in envy.
As you were saying the flames, all I could think of was like, is it Ghost Rider? And there's that scene where she's like, and he had flames on his face. Just like that.
Okay, I made a Clue reference, and you go to Ghost Rider. The Ghost Rider? Oh, Mandi, you and I are going to have a talk.
Clue. I knew it was Clue.
You and I are going to have a little discussion after we finish recording, girl.
I just left the door open. I had to go there. I'm so sorry.
But you didn't. But Mandi, you didn't. I think that's the point.
But
let's get back on track here.
Yes, we're
Tell
going to
me about Destinies.
with the seas for the sand.
Oh my good gravy.
Destinies, which is designed by, I'm going to say this in advance. I apologize if I've mispronounced the names here, but I'm sure our lovely podcast, if someone is familiar with the names, they can let me know how to say it correctly. It is designed by Mikhail Goliviovsky and Filip Milinsky. Art is by Macios Gebreselassie, Karolina Jedraszek, Katarzyna Kosobuka, and Magdalena Leszczynska. Published by Lucky Duck Games. It plays 1 to 3 players in about 90 to 150 minutes. The expansion retails for about $27.95 Canadian, and the base game is around $50 Canadian. I believe it is accessible in the United States, but I do believe in Canada it might be either on pre-order or sold out at the moment, so just bear that in mind if you're looking for it. It is a tile placement storytelling game. So today we're going to be looking at Sea and Sand, and like I said before, we're going to try not to give away spoilers in the game, because it is a type of game where it is showing off secrets and developing as you play. So we'll be doing more of a high-level type review, so to speak. My friends were kind enough to run through the entire games with me back to back to back to back, and then we just did a session and a half of Sea and Sand. We're going to continue because there are some different elements, which I'll try not to get into too many details, but there are things in the game that are slightly different, just slightly. So in the game, depending on which one you're playing, the base game or the new one, there are different themes on it. But this one in particular is looking at your journey trying to reach the sands of Madia. So it's a pirate fortress to the shores of North Africa. This is not a spoiler. This is actually something that's very public information, but you can see that that's the kind of theme behind it. The expansion comes with 3 scenarios, which is a little different from the base game. I think the base game comes with 4. I might be incorrect on that, but it does come with slightly more. And ideally, they do recommend that you play these with the same group if you can and in the order specified. You do notice that they do ramp up as you play them. So, if you have familiarity with it and the people you've played with, you kind of have an idea of how that plays. The expansion comes with new characters, so you'll have new characters to play with. And the box does come with a few other miniatures as well, in addition to your main characters, some NPCs as well, but you do require the base game. So it's not a standalone. So just in case you see the box, it's the same size. No, you do still need the original box to use some of the NPC characters from that box. And that'll be your dice and everything are in the base box as well. So all of that stays the same with your boards and your dice and all your components in that regard. In this one, they have things called submaps that you can visit. So it's not just like one map. There's like another area you can visit. I don't want to go,
cool.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too many details about that, but that is something that comes up that you have like an alternative place that you can go to visit in the game. So I guess it's representing distance, like vast distance in the game. So I thought that was really cool. So mazes and maps are something that you will see in this version. I do find... Maybe I noticed things because it carried over from the base game to the expansion. I know the last game we played in Destinies, the original, there was a lot going on. Like a lot. And almost like a little too much, I found, in that last one. So, and I was playing with people who were not, like I said, like not intense gamers, and they really enjoy this game, but we all found the last one was very hard to kind of get a grasp on things and took a really long time to get to the point. So could have been the way we were playing. I don't know, I wasn't crazy about that. So I was worried about going into the expansion. We were going to feel the same thing. We didn't. I did find the first scenario that we've played so far is definitely a bit smoother in that regard, with a few exceptions. I don't know if it's particularly the character that I played, and I can't go into detail about it, but the Countess is one of the new characters that I've played. And the destinies for this particular character, and I cannot give too much information more than that, it was difficult to attain. And when you thought you had, you hadn't. Like, there was no indication to trigger that you had done that. So I'm a little concerned that character, there's either something that we were missing, but I know I've read online other people have had the same issue. There was also a point in the game where we got to a certain tile. We had discovered or explored a certain tile. And then there was something in the app. If you've reached this tile, don't put the market out, disregard. But then when you closed it, that message disappeared. So I don't know if these are just like little things that have been happening, but I'm just kind of, as a forewarning to people, some of the markets and things that were coming out, it was really late. Like, it might say something like, you get this benefit for exploring tiles. And I'm like, sure, but this is a tile that would have come out far later, I guess. Like, the chance of it coming out early was very slim, so it was of no benefit to you to get certain cards there. And I think that's why there was like a disclaimer. So just little things like that can possibly throw off the game, and it kind of did in our particular game, which kind of made it have a bit of a roundabout feel. But the actual content and storyline, we enjoyed it, and it was very smooth and clear for the most part, so I can't complain about that. I do wish the tiles were tile, like a thicker cardboard versus that kind of paper.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if anyone else has tried that before. I do find they slide around a lot. They possibly have a mat that might help with that, and that's fine, but that was something that I found could be a little problematic. I also had concerns with a couple of the phrasing in the game. Just the way that certain characters were referred to in the game, I thought maybe the wording might be changed in that. So anybody who's playing the game may understand what I'm talking about specifically.
Yeah, I wonder if that's, I think the team behind this game is not North American based,
sure,
right? This is European based, and I find a lot of times cultural and language differences
Absolutely.
can mean, between the cultural differences and then going through translation, it can lead to some of that kind of wonky phrasing in games like that.
And it really is just a matter of adding a secondary word to something.
Sure.
That's it. You know what I mean? And like, you're right. It could just be a translation thing, and then we just have to go back and maybe evaluate that. So that's just something to consider. But overall, with the game, the story, it's thematic. It has a good flow. I do like the app for those who have not played this game before. The app is great. Sets you up, tells you where to put things, what to do. You want to go to a play. It walks you through it, which I appreciate. So, you know, I like the storytelling aspect. We have to read them out loud, all of our choices. They do read it too in the beginning. Some people might prefer to have these things read out loud versus having to read them. I don't mind. I like the storytelling aspect, but for accessibility reasons, someone may need to do that. So I'm not 100% sure if that's something that can be done within the app, but maybe within whatever system you're using, you can allow it to read that for you. Yeah, so fun elements in the new one. Excited to see that some changing in the map. Other than that, for the most part, the rules are the same. It's just thematic and some of the things that have changed. So if you liked Destinies, the base game, I think you will like Destinies Sea and Sand. It just adds like extra elements, different storyline. You know, I'm hoping that more things come out soon so I can try more, because I know my friends are going to want to run through this one really quickly. But Destinies Sea and Sand, it sounds like there were a few things that I didn't care for, but overall I did like the game, and I definitely feel like if you have the time, because it takes time to play, let's be clear, set that time aside. It's going to take you a few plus hours to play. I don't know, maybe we're doing something wrong, but it does take us a while. I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this. The wait is going to be rough. And I mean, I think it's so important, right, that to recognize you can criticize something that you still enjoy. In fact, it's important that we take the time to criticize things, media, looking at board games as a media, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it overall, and I appreciate your comments in terms of things that felt a little wonky too. And this is one of those types of games too. My experience from it may differ significantly from yours depending on the path that we end up taking, right?
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see if I hit some of the same timing issues or things like that you had, or maybe I won't.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Let's see.
Eventually, when I finally can get a copy. Waiting stinks. All right. Well, another game that I'm going to try to be spoiler-free on, which it can be tough, right?
tough.
With like the exit games that we love so much, or the adventure games that we love so much. It's just, how do you talk about this game and give enough information to be helpful but not ruin anything? Oy. Crimes and Capers, High School Hijinks. This is designed by Juliana Moreno-Patel and Ariel Rubin, and the illustrations are by Rowena Ivana Rosenberger, and it's published by Renegade. Now, Juliana and Ariel are the team behind the Escape Room in a Box series. There's a couple, Flashback and Werewolf. I loved those experiences. So when I found out they were behind these Crimes and Capers games that Renegade publishes, I was very, very excited to check it out. And so I picked up a copy at my local game store of the High School Hijinks, which is set in a 90s high school setting. Hello, could you hit my heart any harder on that? Because I was in high school in the 90s. Oh my goodness. And I really, I think a lot of times games have a range of settings and themes, and a high school setting like this is not very common. And so that alone made me really, really excited to check it out. You open the very standard game box, and there's some pamphlets and paper booklets in it. And there's another box in it that's designed to look a little bit like a high school locker, and it's closed with a real lock. Ooh, fascinating, right? Because that's one of the great things about the Escape Room in a Box series is that they use a lot of physical components that really up that escape room feeling. So Escape Room in a Box, yeah, they really bring that home.
Right.
So Crimes and Capers, High School Hijinks says it plays 3 to 6 on the box. In reality, I would say this is a 3 to 4 player game. Because what you're going to do is you get in there and they say, okay, you have to play with these 3 characters. You can then add this character. And then there are these other characters. If you have more than 4 players, there's these 2 other characters and you can just pick which one you want to play. Well, in this game, which is essentially a puzzle game and deduction game, you realize pretty quickly that the 5th and 6th player characters must not have core information to the narrative, because if you can finish the game properly without them, then they can't be saying anything that important. Right. So that kind of hit us out of the gate. We were like, interesting. Okay. So again, without spoiling, you're basically trying to solve this mystery where this kind of rebel character in this high school has gotten busted for stealing some game cards. They're kind of not mocking, but like kind of like Pokemon or kind of like Magic the Gathering. Like these cards have gone missing, and they have blamed this one character that all the students love because she helps them get free passes to be late in class and all this other stuff. But the teachers don't like her, right? Because she's that character. And so you're trying to help solve who really stole the cards to get this person off the hook. Okay, cool. So you get to open, you're going to read the scenario. There's going to be some puzzles. And ultimately you want to open that locker. And then you open the locker, hopefully. And then there's going to be more materials in the locker. And then you go through that. And hopefully you ultimately identify the correct thief and win the game. It is cooperative. You're working together to solve all this stuff. What I will tell you is, and perhaps this is a bit spoilery, so I'm going to give you a second so you can, 30-second skip here if you don't want any kind of spoilers. The first part of the game is very puzzly, where you get these puzzles that you have to solve, and cool. The second part of the game is all deduction. The puzzle element goes away. So it's almost like it's 2 games in a box, where you have this puzzly escape room experience, and then you have just kind of a pretty straightforward deduction game experience. And that kind of surprised us. We thought that there would be puzzles throughout, but no, it was pretty distinctly like, this is a puzzle zone, and then this is a deduction zone. So that was one thing that took us by surprise. In general, loved the setting, the story was interesting. The components were interesting and the quality, and I understand why they do this for cost, but you have like a real lock, and then there was this really nice vellum map of the school. This is not a spoiler. And then some of the paper was very thin. I don't know. It was fine. But what I would say is it was, for my game group, who is pretty experienced, it was just too simple. And in fact, we dragged out solving it because we kept on second guessing ourselves. We were like, we can't be this easy. There has to be a twist that we missed. So we kept on going back and going through things. We're like, no. And so finally we said, okay, it's got to be this person. We flipped it over and we were right. And we had known it like 25 minutes earlier, but we literally we were like, it cannot be this simple. And it was. And that's fine, right? Because especially for people who maybe haven't explored a lot of exit or unlock games or things like that, this is something different for them to try out. So I would say in general, it was fine for us. I wouldn't, unfortunately, recommend it for very experienced players. And it's interesting because it's very rules light. So I'd like to say that, hey, if you've got friends that are just digging into the wonderful world of board games or just want to dip their toes here and you don't want to hand them like a 4-star exit game, then this Crimes and Capers may be a good one. But I suggest you be on hand, because if you are not experienced with those types of games, I think there's some, I'm going to say the term missing rules, but that's probably not the right way to phrase it. There's not a lot of guidance, and there's a lot of like shorthand that if you've played these kinds of games, like for example, if you've got a sheet of paper and there's dotted lines on it, what do you do with that? Mm-hmm. Is that a fold line? Is that a cut line? Is that a draw line? What do you do with that? There's no instructions, right, on what you would do with those lines. So, again, if you've played an exit game, you've got some instinct for it. But if you haven't, and the complexity of the game is really for people who haven't had a lot of experience, I wish that there were more instructions to help newcomers to this type of game really feel like they can get into the flow. So that's where we kind of landed on Crimes and Capers, High School Hijinks. Love the setting. The story was fun. I wish it had a little more guidance for newer players to this type of game. And if you're very experienced in puzzle and escape room style games, I'd say this one will probably be pretty simple for you to solve. So that's Crimes and Capers, High School Hijinks.
Interesting. So newer players needs a few more just kind of, that's the word I'm looking for. Clearer guidelines? Would that be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like a setup sheet, and then it's like, okay, open your booklets and start reading them, and you can take notes.
I see.
And go to this website if you need help. And there's a hint for the website,
Sure.
that kind of thing, which we ultimately didn't need.
Okay.
But there you go. Now, Mandi, I know that you have been a little easy on new games that you wanted to bring to the podcast. I got a couple. I'm going to do something. I want you to pick what game I talk about next.
Oh, well, look at
All right.
this. Interesting.
So I've got, I've talked about Mountain Goats, which is part of this small box game set that BoardGameTables.com put out.
Right.
I loved Mountain Goats. Well, there's two others in that little trio, Sequoia and GPS. I could talk about either of them. You pick.
This is a big decision here, everyone, but Sequoia stands out because I actually believe it was one I had written down on my list. Everyone's like, oh, this looks interesting. So, yeah, let's go with that one.
All right, so we'll wrap up games played with Sequoia from BoardGameTables.com. I wonder if they're going to keep that name. It's kind of a weird publisher name. You know what I'm saying?
It is. It's different.
This is designed by Chad Deshawn. The illustrations are from Anka Gavril and Danielle Profiri. And like I mentioned, it's part of this set, right? It's not necessarily a set, but certainly they were sold at the same time. You can order from them directly online and that kind of thing. Sequoia is a very straightforward area control game. So you're going to get this little box, you open it up, you got big square cards with very pretty illustrations on it, and they are just numbered from 2 to 12. And then each player is going to get a stack of little tree tokens. They're different colors and different shapes, and then you're going to get your own set of 5 dice in your player color. On a round, players are just going to roll all 5 of their dice, make 2 of them into a pair, and then discard one. And then everybody reveals at the same time, and then you put a token on the 2 cards that match the value of your pairs. So if I make a pair that's 12 and 2, I'm going to put a token on 12. I'm going to put a token on 2. If I make 2 pairs that are 7 and 7, I'm going to put 2 tokens on number 7. You keep on going until everybody's out of tokens. And then whoever has the most tokens on any given card is going to get the points for that card. Now, at the beginning of the game, there are first place and second place tokens that are shuffled up and randomly dealt out to these different locations. So there's some variability in that, which is kind of cool. And at the end, if you're tied for control, there's an interesting tiebreaker system where you just keep on playing between the tied players. Normally, I'm kind of like, really? In Sequoia, it worked really, really well, actually. And I quite enjoyed it when we were resolving ties. Look, Sequoia is very, very simple. I mean, that was the whole game right there. Roll dice, make pairs, put tokens out, get most tokens wins. My biggest complaint about the game is that the illustrations on the card are lovely and the tokens themselves are lovely. It just gets to be a lot visually as things are stacking up, especially if you're playing with more players. So it's a little harder to visually tell, but it's fine. Honestly, I love this game. It's so fun. Now, if you hate area control, sure, this isn't going to be for you.
Right.
But it's really fun. You're looking at the high value numbers. Ooh, there's 6 points if you get the control of number 9. But everybody's going to be fighting for that. So maybe I should focus on getting 4 and 5 because they're not as valuable and nobody's going to fight me for them. Every round, you're carefully looking at what everybody has everywhere, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I strategically use my tokens? You're dealing with the luck of your dice and figuring out how you can make optimal pairs and things like that. Rules-wise, very, very simple. Gameplay-wise, very interactive, very engaging. It's just super fun. I mean, between this and Mountain Goats, it makes the trio absolutely 100% worth it. Out of the, I'm really impressed with what Board Game Tables is doing with this system. I say system, it's not a system, but
Sure.
with these little boxes. I love the simplicity of Sequoia. I love the visuals, even though it can be a little busy visually. It's very pretty, simple to teach, quick to play, a great intro, a great nightcap, whatever. Just a great game. I definitely recommend it. Again, if you like area control, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So that is Sequoia.
And remind me, do you remember the player count on this one?
It goes up to 5.
Okay.
I think with the little mini expansion that you can get, it'll go up to 6 players.
Okay.
And again, because it's one of those games that like everybody's playing at the same time, there's no downtime.
Right.
You play with as many people as you have. It's no big deal. So it's great for those kinds of situations too.
I always get worried with games that have like a higher player count. Like, oh, does it mean it's only going to be good at 6 or only going to be good at 5? Do you know what I mean? So that always makes me worried. But this one, what would you say would be best player count in your opinion?
I actually think it's better with more people because there's more competition for the different locations.
Which makes sense.
You can play it at 3.
Okay.
And it's just a little more open, right? There's a little less competition on spots.
Okay.
So I think 4, 5, or 6 would be just fine.
All right. Got range. I like it.
That's it for the games we've been playing. We'll be back in 2 episodes, talk more about more games played. But Mandi, we got some pie to serve up. So let's get to it.
Brought to you by TheOp.games, also known as USAopoly. Today's featured game is Hues and Cubes. Recent Dice Tower Party Game of the Year winner, Hues and Cubes, is a must-add to your shelf. To play, pick a color, give a clue, and everyone guesses a color on the board. Available now at TheOp.games or your local game store today. Exclusive for Dice Tower listeners, 10% off your entire purchase at TheOp.games. Use promo code DICETOWER. This is available for all games, puzzles, and accessories for U.S. residents only.
Order up!
And now, it's time to order up a slice of game pie.
All right, everybody. Game pie, and it's a tech tree game pie. How would that actually work in the realm of real pie? So would you have like an apple pie with like a slice of cheese and whipped cream, and then you kind of like map it out that way? Or is it like the ratio of filling to crust and then to the next level of the cheese? Like, I'm not sure.
You're what? Are you even? Oh my goodness, Mandi. Actually, it's interesting because there was a thread on the Board Game Geek Guild, and somebody posted that they just kind of realized that Game Pie was our way of addressing kind of a top 10 without being a top 10. And they figured us out, Mandi. And I realized we probably haven't talked about Game Pie in a while, but
Sure.
Game Pie is essentially that. Mandi and I don't care for the top 10 pressure. It just feels like it's all on us, right? But it's like, oh, the ranking and what if you miss a game and all this other stuff. It carries a certain amount of pressure that we're like, come on, no, we don't need to do that. But so we came up with Game Pie because who doesn't love pie? And it's just like you can have a slice and you can fill it with all the good stuff and it's all mashed together. So Game Pie is our way of talking about games in a grouping of some sort, whether it's thematic or designer or what have you, without ranking them. So we just get to talk about games in that given category that we really enjoy and that we really highlight. Are they our favorites in that category? Chances are they're pretty high. But see, we're giving ourselves a little bit of an out, right, Mandi? That if we forget one in the moment, we don't get into too much trouble. Well, because it's just a game pie.
It's a sampler. Look at it that way. I don't like to commit to a specific pie. I like all types of pie.
I mean,
and
I hear
sometimes I like a big piece. Sometimes I like a little nibble. It depends. You know?
So that's what Game Pie is. And I don't know, Mandi, what you were going through, like the crust and the tech tree. Good try, though. Good try.
I did try. Somebody listening will get it because we have an amazing listener base. And they will come back and say, Mandi, I got you, girl. And they will send me an email that does a tech tree with an apple pie. I'm waiting for it, actually. That is a challenge.
Actually, that's probably true. Forward that to me when you get it.
I absolutely
believe you.
will.
All right, Mandi, serve up your first slice of tech tree pie.
Well, my first slice of tech tree pie has some bones in it. Yeah, that's not a good pie at all. But in the game realm it is Too Many Bones. And Too Many Bones, I just have so many happy memories. And I know I've spoken about this game before. I'm putting it here because you literally have a mat with dice that you're plugging in to make you a better character, a better player. So an RPG, dice rolling RPG, and you've got your tree of skills and benefits that you're trying to build with these types of dice, trying to defeat all the baddies. And let me tell you, there are a lot of baddies in this game. And I have to tell you, I really, really enjoy this game. I know many people have heard me talk about it. We've had many positive experiences. Suzanne and I, we've played it. We've played it with, John and Son on the cruise, and just some great times. So Too Many Bones for me. If you haven't tried it, you like a bit of that RPG element with some dice, can't go wrong. Too Many Bones.
Excellent choice, indeed. First up for me, Innovation. Or Matainai. Take your pick. Okay. They're not the same game at all. I get that. I'm going to get yelled at for putting them in the same one, but I'll deal with it. Designed by Carl Chuduk, these are pretty well-known games for leveraging multi-use cards that have different icons on different locations, and depending on where you place them in your player area, changes what they do and unlocks new capabilities and strengthens capabilities and contributes to scoring and fulfills prerequisites. And as your tableau builds out and out, you hopefully get better, more efficient at the game in general so that you can win. I don't actually know how to win at these games, but I sure do enjoy exploring them. And someday I'm going to win one of these, I swear. But I really enjoy them for the puzzle that they create and for that building up of the different technologies and the different directions that you can go. That's Innovation or Matainai.
I have actually not played Innovation. I have seen it. I've heard people talk about it. I feel like this is what I need to play because a lot of people mention that they enjoy this. So
I got a copy, so you can
add it to the pile. We're gonna have some long nights in this
long list. Yeah.
All right. Well, the next slice of pie I'm going to talk about is Brass Lancashire. So I have the two because the other one, the name is escaping me out right now. But I've played both. I've played this one, really looking forward to playing the other as well. But this one has that kind of, it's a mixture. It has that route building in it, in addition to the kind of tech tree elements. So if you're into that kind of, rail type game, it's not a rail game per se, but if you like that kind of theme and where it's going, I think it's like Industrial Revolution type era. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's where it takes place. But you get an idea for the theme. I really like this game, and it looks like when you see the box and it's heavy and, I don't know about this one, but it's a really nice foray into this type of game. So I really like Brass Lancashire. I know some people are kind of split on this. They like one better than the other. I haven't played the other one yet, so I can't compare, but this one is quite good. And I know Ashley approves because I know I loaned her my copy. Ooh. She's like, it's so good. I love it. So there you go.
Alrighty. Next slice up for me. And I think there is an interesting discussion here about the difference between a tech tree and an engine builder.
Right.
And we may have been a little soft on that.
Loosey-goosey, everybody.
Hey, folks, we're using the Board Game Geek official categorization here. So we pulled purely from what has been labeled with tech tree in BGG for what it's worth.
Exactly.
So we can all yell at Jeff Engelstein and BGG on this front. But my next slice is 100% confident a tech tree game because the whole game is virtually a tech tree. And this is Beyond the Sun. It's very straightforward when you come out. There's some cards that are going to be face down, some cards that are face up. And as you start taking actions to activate these cards to progress, arguably it's a civilization game of type as you research technologies, but science and military and things like that. Really, even the board is laid out like a tree where you start on the left and you progress to the right and you get to different points and the paths fork. You can choose directions. You can unlock new capabilities to make things more powerful. It's an entire game virtually. There's a planet area where you can travel from planets and stuff like that too. But really, the whole game is in this variable tech tree. And I gotta say, it's pretty bare bones visually and all of the sorts of things. I really, really like this one. It is going to take you a few plays, I think, to really get into the flow. But if you like this kind of thing, it's worth the investment. It's a really intriguing, really enjoyable game with some factors that make it not 100% predictable, and I like that. So, Beyond the Sun.
Wow, another game that I have not played. Wow, this is so bad. I'm like 2 for 2 here that I have not played.
Adding it to the list.
Adding it to the list.
list.
So, no surprise here. Next on my list is a Vital Lacerda game on Mars. Now, I know what you're thinking, and yes, this is This isn't that kind of like bit loosey in there, but we're gonna throw it in because when I think of this game, I think more of like exploration a little bit because you're trying to open that.
There's a lot going on, yeah.
Right, there's a lot going on, and this is why I think it kind of falls into a few different categories. But you're exploring that board to get those tiles out, but then you have that whole side of the board where you're trying to push up the different tracks, right, in order to get those benefits. And then there are different phases in the board because you're working on 2 different sides, so you're definitely trying to find that balance of doing all the things at the right time to push up the right tracks to get the points. That was a lot that I just said, but it's a Vital game, so expect nothing less. So on Mars, for me, I really like this game. It's definitely like one of the crunchier ones, but it's one that you just want to keep playing. I'm pretty sure you've played this, Suzanne, and I think you've enjoyed it as well. And
I love it. It's one of my top 3 Vital Lacerda games for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for me as well. And I think there's an expansion, or there was an expansion, or something had come out, I think, on Kickstarter, but... Oh boy.
It hasn't been released yet, but it's coming.
It's coming, and I still have a lot of game here to play with on Mars. I've only played it about 3 or 4 times, so looking forward to playing it much more on Mars.
Excellent choice. Next up for me, Food Chain Magnet. And Mandi, a little surprised this wasn't on your list, to be honest.
I can't believe I forgot about that one. I saw it on your list. I'm like, I can't believe it. I forgot this one.
This is why we do pie, right? The pressure. For moments like this is exactly why we do a pie and not like a top 10. Food Chain Magnet has a lot going on in it, but one of the core elements of the game is, of course, that employee tree.
Right.
Of sorts, right? As you're unlocking different types of employees and that you have to access certain type of employees before you can access other types of employees, and you're building up this staff team to make your making and marketing and pitching of fast food products as efficient as possible. Food Chain Magnet is absolutely an awesome game, and I'll be honest, that employee tree is my favorite part of it, and so I had to include it. Mandi, gotcha. In my tech tree game pie.
That's literally like part of my job. And this is where I had to really master the word in French, hiérarchie, which is hierarchy, because I like this game and I actually use this as an example to explain how that worked at work. So I'm a little sad that I forgot about that one. Well, this last slice of pie that we have going on here is Newton. Now, I haven't played this game for a while, but I remember when it came out, I was like, what? It's so good. I played it so much. And it's one of those games where, again, I think this might fall into that loosey-goosey category, but it's a game where you have cards and you're putting them on your board and actioning those cards in a specific way to kind of help you throughout the game. So if you haven't tried Newton, I definitely think you should. I know it's not comparable to like Voyages of Marco Polo, but I feel like I didn't particularly care for that game, but I liked this game. And I know some people have had talks about possible similarities. I didn't find a lot of similarities, but some people have. I just preferred this kind of mechanism overall. So Newton, if you haven't tried it, give it a whirl. It's been out for a few years, so it's not super new. But yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's a fun one. And actually, yeah, that's when I should get back to the table.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and to wrap up our tech tree game pie, this one might be a little bit of a cheat on a couple of factors.
So much cheat on this list. So much cheat. Or cheese.
Yeah.
Cheese.
I think we're hungry.
I know.
Food Chain Magnet. Cheese. Carnegie. So, number 1, it's not really out yet, but I've played it so much digitally because they released a digital version. I backed the campaign, and I'm eagerly waiting for it. This is one of my favorite games to come out in the last 5 years. I gotta say, I love this game. There's so much going on. Okay. This one really hits the out of the park for me, but I understand it's not like officially, but I've played it so much in the digital world. And arguably this one falls into an engine builder, but it's in the tech tree category. But Carnegie overall you're kind of mimicking the Carnegie magnet growth and business, and you're opening up different departments in your office building, and you're moving trains around the country, and you are building up different capabilities in 4 different categories. So between the employee building that you're adding to your building as you're getting new departments, and these sliding tracks that you are using to strengthen your abilities in different areas, I think that that's where they get the tech tree for BGG, and it just works. All these pieces. Carnegie's one of those things where there's a lot going on, but they snap together in a way that makes sense, and I love that about it, and a lot of other things about it as well. So Carnegie, my final slice of tech tree pie.
Oh, I'm waiting for my copy too. I'm very excited for this one. Oh, so many games I need to play.
Yeah, seriously. Well, there you have it, folks. That was another episode of the Dice Tower podcast for Mandi and myself. As Mandi has made huge progress on catching up on emails, now I am the one that's definitely falling behind, but we are definitely gearing up for a Q&A session, so send on those questions. You can reach me at Suzanne at Dicetower.com.
And you can reach me at Mandi, that's Mandi with an I, at Dicetower.com.
As always, it is a pleasure and privilege to be part of your extended gaming family. Thank you so much for being here and for putting up with our singing and our food talk and our complete inability to make segues between segments. Wow. We need Eric here more often. That's what I think, right?
Eric listens to this probably and goes, oh no, I need to come on and assist here.
Just for the segues.
Just for the segues.
Just bring him on. He doesn't talk about anything except when we need to transition. He jumps in with the perfect segue.
I just can see his face, his eyes closed, and just shaking his head, possibly removing his glasses and just going, oh no.
Indeed. Speaking of Eric, Tom and Eric are back for 736, and they should be coming to you from the Dice Tower Retreat talking about robot games.
Oh, fantastic.
Until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric with assistance from Roy Canaday and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at podcast@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. All right, everybody, it's that time again for Two Truths and a Lie. I'll share mine from last episode. I own several types of D100s, I own several types of D6s, and I own several sets of RPG dice. If you said that I own several types of D100s was the lie, you would be correct. I actually own 0 of that type of die.
Big liar.
It was a juicy one. I'm so sorry.
In the last episode, I was in a zone, clearly. I said I've played Dune the board game, I've played Dune Imperium, and I've played Dune the dice game. And the lie is that I've played Dune the board game. The original, the Grail game for so many. I haven't had a chance to play it.
Wow.
But Dune Imperium and Dune the dice game, thumbs up.
I have not played Dune the dice game. I'm going to have to give that a whirl, I think.
It's a bit of a print and play.
Got it. All right, well, new this episode, I was on a thing with books and graphic novels, so thought I'd jump into the graphic novels. I like the graphic novel series Goldie Vance, Twisted Dark, and Why the Last Man. Haha. What about you, Suzanne?
Some good stuff in that one.
Yeah.
This episode, I was in a cartoon mood, so I said, I've seen every episode of Bob's Burgers, I've seen every episode of Futurama, and I've seen every episode of Rick and Morty.
Oh, wow. Quite the two truths and a lie this week. Good luck, everyone.